Hi, it's Ramsey Dewey over here in Shanghai, China. Welcome to another edition of Q&A with a Coach. Today we have a question from our friend Neil. Neil has been practicing martial arts for over 20 years, more the reality-based martial arts, military, combative types of martial arts, self-defense type of stuff. Basically martial arts where there are no fouls, if you will. It's not a combat sport that he's training for. So the idea of striking the groin or the throat or something like that is not necessarily a faux pas in the way that he is trained. Now, he has spent some time training at an MMA gym with some guys training for the sport of MMA specifically. And he says this. He says, I have altered my techniques to suit an MMA fight, but you can't get rid of 20-odd years of instinct. So the other day, the session got heated, and I kind of lightly leopard punched. That's making a fist like that and jamming the hard parts of the fingers, the knuckles into the soft parts of the neck. Right, so he gently leopard punched the pro guy that he was sparring with in the throat. It was light contact, but I understand a punch to the throat does not feel pretty. No, it doesn't. I've taken a few myself, and it sucks. While the coach said nothing and just told us to reset after a foul call, the other guy refused and he went ballistic. I'm not going to repeat his exact words, but a civilized translation would be, you fight with no honor. Your techniques are ugly and dirty, and that no MMA fight would forgive these things, so I don't want to spar with you anymore. Now I said things back too, and in my opinion I think he just does not like me. And because I give him a very hard time and beat him on multiple occasions, it is more his ego talking. So he goes on to say, ultimately the question, I would love if you would tell me who is wrong here, me or him. And I know punching someone in the throat deliberately is wrong in an MMA environment, but I mean his reaction, and how big of a deal is it really? Okay. Something you may or may not know about the rules of mixed martial arts, and I only learned this after becoming a referee. Because one of the rules seems to obviously state that striking the throat directly is a foul. Okay. Brace yourself for this one, though, and your coach might not know this either. Under unified rules, that's the UFC rules, during the stand-up portion of a fight, if a strike lands to the throat area, it is to be considered a fair and legal blow. Did you know that? I made a whole video about this. About when the fouls are actually not fouls. And this is one of those instances. So if we're in a stand-up fight and I throw a strike and that strike hits the guy in the throat, it's incidental. It's a fair and legal blow. Now, should you spar like that? Probably not. Probably not, man. Now, okay, I get it. It slipped. Instinct came out. It sort of happened because that's what you've been training for 20 years. And, yeah, okay. We'll accept that. Should you do that on purpose? Obviously not. You understand that. He understands that. Everybody understands that. Don't hurt your training partners, right? But that thing that he yelled at you about how this is unforgivable in the sport of MMA, actually it's not. It's not. And they might fight you on this, they might argue. But it's not. If you're fighting under UFC rules, let me repeat that by rule again. In the stand-up portion of a fight, if a strike lands to the throat area, it is to be considered a fair and legal blow. What just happened there? Bumped the camera. So what do you actually have to do to foul somebody for a throat strike? Well, yeah, you kind of have to. You got to go above and beyond. If you have a guy pinned on the ground, for example, that's not the stand-up portion of a fight, and you lift their chin up and start teeing off on their throat, yeah, the referee is going to jump in there, call a stop to that, call it a foul. At the same time, here's the thing about fouls. People get really hung up on the morality of fouls. Did you ever see that movie, The Karate Kid Part 3? The one with Terry Silver, the evil sensei's evil sensei. If you saw the Karate Kid Part 1, Sensei Kreese, the bad guy, he had an evil sensei too. Terry Kreese. Oh man, I love this movie. It's kind of so bad, it's awesome. But Terry Kreese was a great martial arts instructor, and I'll tell you why. Terry Kreese was the perfect combat sports coach in so many ways. I mean, he was a crazy, demented lunatic who was pledging his life to make a teenage boy's life miserable, but here's the great thing about the movie. So what happened? These evil karate senseis, they hire a karate prodigy to come train with them and represent their school to beat up the hero in the karate tournament. And karate tournaments have very strict rules. It's supposed to be light contact, no face kicks, no this, no that, no the other. A bunch of fouls. A bunch of fouls above and beyond the list of fouls you will find in the sport of MMA. But they want their guy to beat up Daniel LaRusso, the hero, because they want their revenge for what he did in the first movie. So how did they do that with all of these rules in a light contact point karate tournament? Well, this particular tournament had a bye rule. And that rule was, if there is a foul for a violation of the rules, then the punishment is a loss of 1 point. And so in order to enact their plan, their game plan, which was a solid game plan, not necessarily an ethical or a good game plan, but a solid game plan, they tell their fighter, Mike Barnes, I think that was the character's name, they tell Mike, all right, here is how you're going to do it. You're going to win a point. Like legitimately, do a light contact strike to a legal scoring area. Get the point. And then you're going to lose a point by fouling him, by hurting him, by hitting him hard and injuring Daniel LaRusso. And then you'll win another point legitimately, and then you will lose a point. And because the way the tournament was structured in these movies, he was able to do that. And so this went on for some time. He would win a point legitimately because, his karate was that good. He could do it. And then he would foul the hero and the hero would get hurt. And this went on for some time. Meanwhile, the evil coaches are loving it like, yes, we're getting our revenge on this jerk who ruined our lives in the first movie. And we're supposed to hate these guys for it. We're supposed to be like, boo, boo, you guys are jerks. Oh, how can you be so mean to Daniel LaRusso? But upon a second and third and fourth and probably sixth or seventh viewing of The Karate Kid Part 3, I realized, man, I love Terry Silver. That guy is amazing. In combat sports, there are the rules and then there are the rules. In the gym, yeah, be good to your training partners. But in a fight, understand there are the rules and then there are the rules. Now you might ask yourself, how do you want the public to perceive you? Do you want people to think, oh, that guy has no honor? Okay. In which case, you might want to disregard completely what I'm about to tell you. Because I'm about to tell you to take a page from the playbook of Terry Silver. But first I'll relate an experience, a story. So I had this kickboxing match. And I was fighting this guy. He was a little shorter, and so he kept crowding me, getting in close to take away my reach advantage, and I wasn't able to use my high kicks, which were my best weapon at the time. And he knew that, so he was trying to take that away, and he would just get up close, and this was American kickboxing rules, so no inactive clinching, and he was doing a pretty good job of staying close without clinching. And at that time, I didn't really have a good skill set in that area. I do now, but not back then. And so I was getting frustrated. So I come back to my corner between rounds, and he comes up to me, and he says, he does that again to you? You throw a knee right in his groin, as hard and as heavy as you can. That is what my cornerman said to me. And I said, but the rules. And he says, there's the rules, and then there's the rules. You do that, you know what happens? You get a warning from the referee. And then just don't do it again. You won't even lose a point for it. Those are the rules. I thought about that. I'm like, well, I don't want to kick him in the groin, but let's see what happens. So I go out there, and again, my opponent comes out, and he starts crowding me again. Now, knees in American kickboxing rules were not legal at all. Just kicks and punches. And I hear my coach. He's like, do it. There's the rules, and then there's the rules. It's echoing in my head like a 1990s karate movie. And I'm deliberating this choice for like half a second. I'm like, okay, I didn't knee him in the groin, but I brought up a heavy knee to his midsection. Boom! And he backed off. And the referee comes over, puts his hand in there, and he says, no knees. Fight! And the fight continued. And the guy backed off. He gave me some space, plenty of space to use my kicks. I ended up winning that fight in round 2. And you might be thinking, but Coach Dewey, you had no honor. You broke the rules. Yeah. And I paid the consequences of that rule violation, which was a warning from the referee. Now, am I telling you to go out there and be dirty fighters? Not necessarily. But at the same time, it's a sport. Everybody keeps reminding me of this on the internet. But Ramsey, what you don't understand is that MMA is a sport. Kickboxing is a sport. Boxing is a sport. Yeah, I know. It's a sport. And sports have rules. Like all you guys who practice Krav Maga or whatever keep reminding me. Yes, sports have rules. And the beautiful thing about rules is that you can milk the rules to win. And that might sound evil to you. That might make your skin crawl a little bit. But you can totally milk the rules to win. No, I'm not telling you to cheat. I'm not telling you to deliberately go out there and foul your opponent, because a deliberate, flagrant foul generally carries a more heavy penalty than just a warning. But if you kick a guy in the groin and you back up like, oh, I'm so sorry, that was totally an accident. Put on a little bit of pageantry for the referee, almost always he'll simply say, that's a warning, no groin kicks, retreat to a neutral corner while this guy has 5 minutes to recover. And that's it. And then you get a free break. How many times have you watched a UFC fight where a guy may have been on the losing end of the exchanges and he kind of needed a break, and so he throws that inside leg kick conveniently a little bit too high and it lands right on the groin, and then, oh, so sorry, totally an accident, referee, my bad, fist bump, bro. And then they get a 5-minute break while the other guy is reeling in the corner. And here's a very interesting thing about groin kicks. Very few times, Matt, can you name a single fight, a single major fight in the UFC where there was a heavy groin kick, one that did require that 5-minute break, one that actually hurt the guy, where after taking that break, the guy who got fouled ended up winning? I can't think of any. If you can, let me know in the comments down below. It's not very common. Now, you might be thinking about that video I made about tie steel cups, and how if you have that tied on right, that's going to minimize damage to the groin. Yeah, it will. Cups aren't standardized. The way you tie them on is not standardized. Not everybody has them on the same way. Sometimes they shift. If a kick comes in from an angle and it's not secured perfectly, accidents can and do happen. And so some of those groin shots are definitely warranted when they get that break. The breaks are warranted, not the groin shocks. Sorry. But yeah, man, very few fighters have come back from that experience and won. And so you might be thinking, if there's the rules and then there's the rules, be throwing a combination, make an inside leg kick, make a groin kick look like an accidental inside leg kick that went just a little too high. Be very profusely apologetic, oh so sorry, total accident, put on the pageantry, and then what happens? You have an injured fighter who is probably too proud to throw in the towel, because if he is injured to the point where he cannot continue, the fight is done, and he can win that by default. But very few fighters are willing to do that. I mean, there was this whole, what was it, Diego Sanchez recently anyway, he was fighting, he got fouled, and he called it quits, and a lot of people gave him a hard time about that. Unwarranted, in my opinion. I mean, Diego has proven he's a tough guy, man. He's a tough guy. He's put on some shows, some very memorable shows. He's proven he's not a quitter. Obviously, he's not a quitter, but in that particular occasion, for whatever reason, he decided, I'm done. I cannot continue. I can respect that. I can respect that. And so he ended up winning by default. And that's okay, because those are the rules of the sport. And the rules, like I said, you can milk those rules for the better or for the worse. But at the end of the day, the rules dictate the winner. Not your honor, not your sense of justice, but the rules. So read the rule book if you want to win. But at the same time, you punch somebody in the throat in sparring in the gym. One, don't do that. Two, if you accidentally do it, apologize. If he's angry, it's understandable. He just got punched in the throat. Surely you can have some sympathy for that. He might be a jerk to you. He might be pissed off at you because, you beat him before in a sparring session or whatever, but it's okay to say, I'm sorry. I'm in the wrong. I shouldn't have done that. I hope you're okay. Simple words like that can go a long way when they are sincere. Thank you for watching. Now get out there and train.